in the house. And they're loving today because not only do they get Skip and Stephen A., they have Deion Sanders. Who's better than them, right?
Hall of Famer!
Yes, yes, yes. All right.
Boy,
All right.
that's stating the obvious, I would say, right?
It is.
Well, he is a bad man. He does deserve it.
All right, so before the break, we were discussing Cam. Obviously, we left off with you guys. I want Skip to get involved here, a potential future Hall of Famer.
Oh,
Skip,
yeah.
your thoughts on his comments leading up to the Super Bowl these past 2 weeks?
What Stephen A. Smith just so powerfully stated, what Deion echoed, and our audience applauded, leads me to a question I am curious about, and I would value perspective from both of these gentlemen on this question. We have had black quarterbacks in this game now 4 straight years, back to Kaepernick and obviously Russell Wilson for the last 2. So let's just keep it to Russell Wilson. Why in his 2 years, why in his 2 Super Bowl weeks, did we not discuss, hear about, debate any black quarterback issues concerning Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson is closer to a traditional quarterback as there is. The mold is Brady. The mold is Manning. Russell Wilson is that type of guy with a lot of athleticism, Aaron Rodgers-esque. Cam Newton is a whole nother dude. He's not running a traditional offense. He's running an offense with a little college tendency in it. So we're not going to get that. Russell Wilson is not dabbing when he scores. Russell Wilson is a very polite, very conscious baseball player. It's kind of cerebral. He's that type of guy. He's not going to do anything to threaten authority. He's not that guy. So let's not make him that guy. And let's not take a shot at his blackness. Because I truly believe that he understands that he is an African-American quarterback. Cam, on the other hand, is Cam. Whoa, Cam. Cam. You see what I mean? That's Cam Newton. 2 different entities that you can't look at them the same.
Okay, but remember, Russell will run with the football now. He runs read option, called running plays, different kind of running plays. He won't run between the tackles the way Cam will, short yardage goal line, but he will run with the football, right?
Yes, he will.
That's not traditional.
That's not traditional, but it's not Cam. Russell Wilson is a really conscious, polite, thoughtful young man. That's not saying Cam isn't.
I got you.
Cam is College Park, Georgia. Cam is this generation's guy. Cam had the audacity and the nerve to wear and to dress the way he dresses. And you got to have some real confidence to do that.
You want me to take it from here?
Yes,
Take
sir.
it.
Cam Newton has changed. Cam Newton has changed, expedited. Cam Newton has changed, that has arrived a bit too sooner than folks are comfortable with. And that's what this is. When you look at Russell Wilson, if you remember correctly, Skip, when word came out that there were people questioning his blackness, I was appalled. He doesn't deserve that.
By the way, Mike Freeman of the Bleacher Report wrote a piece about this
and
last
but
year.
he didn't. It was like Mike Freeman, you know, he got unfairly criticized for it because once again, you got a reporter out there. This report was going on, and people act like he was saying it when in fact it's what he was told.
Sure.
All right, and that wasn't fair to Mike Freeman. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you got a guy like Russell Wilson who didn't deserve that, but we need to understand the dynamics that come along with it. I talked to you in a previous segment, everybody up in here, about the difference between a black man and a brother. What you have in Russell Wilson is a black man, It's not that he's not a brother. It's that Cam Newton is more glaring and more flagrant with who he is. Russell Wilson wants to go out there and do the job. Russell Wilson was at North Carolina State. Russell Wilson transferred to Wisconsin. Russell Wilson was considered, somebody they questioned whether he could do this or that. And then he went and he did it. Then he got picked up in the third round. He goes to Seattle after they gave Matt Flynn $12 million in guaranteed money. I still want to know who his agent is. Only in America. I mean, Lord have mercy. Okay, but then Russell Wilson goes up in there as a rookie and wins the job in training camp, okay? So Russell Wilson sits there, draws the fine line. He's on a new level. He's in the NFL. You got Snyder the GM. You got Pete Carroll running the show, and they hand him the ball, and he's got to mesh himself and ingratiate himself in with his teammates. So you got the beast mode, Marshawn Lynch behind in the backfield. You got the Legion of Boom as the defense. They're the identity of the team, but he's sort of feeling his way through, getting along to get along while producing and elevating his level of play. So he's thought the prototypical quintessential way to do things, and that's what he does. But what happened is he wasn't the #1 overall pick in the draft,
right,
who was a Heisman Trophy winner, who was a national champion, who was a junior college national champion, and has achieved on every single level. So when Cam comes in, Cam is like, here I am. And you got Deion, okay? And so all of a sudden, here we go. And here comes Cam. And in the process of that maturation, he's being picked apart and criticized, and suddenly he's not just a football player. Now you're that dude that needs to be held in check because we want to dictate your growth. We want to dictate how quick it maturates, how quick it ascends to the point where we get to control not just the image that you have, but also how quickly society embraces it and grasps it. And Cam said, hell no, you will not do that to me. I am going to dictate that. That is what is different between him, a Donovan McNabb, a Russell Wilson, and others. It's not that any of those brothers are not good people, great guys who were great football players and produced, but their approach to it was more receptive in the eyes of the public in Madison Avenue and the NFL and beyond because they're comfortable with that incremental process crawling before you walk. Whereas Cam said, if I can leap, why am I going to let you stop me from leaping? If I can jump and leap over these hurdles, why should I go through methodically what you want me to go through? It's like that person that has an opportunity to get millions. Most of us get our education. Pound that pavement, get a job, get a career, whatever, whether it's even if you're an athlete, high school, college, pros. But if somebody tells you, you know what, you get to bypass 5 steps and go straight to being a millionaire, who's turning that down? Cam is saying, I ain't turning down this opportunity. This is me. Deal with it. And that is why it is such a struggle for folks to deal with. Am I right about that?
And you're right. And they're winning.
Yes.
Because none of it works unless you win.
And none of it works unless you win.
Let's go one level deeper. Let's get a little realer here. Stephen A. and I have gone back and forth, and I want Deion's deeper perspective on this. But we've gone back and forth about criticism of Cam Newton. In my little world, my little sample size of the people I know and run into, very unscientific. In my world, all the white people I know, they love them some Cam Newton. He is exciting. He is entertaining, especially younger people I know. They're all about Cam Newton, and they find Peyton Manning boring. Like he's old news, he's done, we're all about Cam. He is becoming beloved, in my opinion, in the white community as well as in the black community. Yet I continue to hear, and I get a little lost on criticism of Cam. They say. All I know, now again, Stephen A. is reading deeper things into it, and I respect the heck out of that. But all I know for sure is that one woman, a white woman in Nashville, Tennessee, who happened to be in the stands as a casual fan at a Panthers at Titans game in which Cam Newton scored the clinching 27-10 touchdown, and she was in the end zone, and right in front of her, Cam did the more extended dance that he did, probably the most extended of the year.
Right.
And the Titans were trying to fight him in the end zone. Remember this? They're trying to get by the referee to him.
Yeah, they were losing.
No, it was a brother tried to fight him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's make note of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So she's up in the end zone with her 9-year-old daughter, 2 white people, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by Panther fans who have gotten tickets in their stadium. And because Cam is celebrating, they feel empowered to celebrate and taunt the Titan fans, including her and her daughter. profanely taunt, and she was horrified by it and felt like Cam had encouraged these rival fans to taunt and shame them in their own city and in their own stadium. So she goes home impassioned, maybe a little knee-jerk emotionally, and she fires off a letter to the editor to the Charlotte Observer, which they print. She became the face of white racist resentment and hate of Cam Newton. Just that one. That's just my take on this. Then afterward, she cooled off after Cam spoke about it and apologized, wrote another letter of apology. That's all I know publicly that Cam has been criticized for. Your thoughts?
I agree, first and foremost, on the wonderful woman that was seated specifically in that section and was compelled to go home and write a letter. You never make a decision based on emotions. Calm down.
That's the truth.
Gotcha.
That's why I hate to see our athletes upset after a game, then talk outlandishly because you're still emotional.
Got it?
Calm down. You see things from a whole different perspective. I think Cam is being unjustly and unjustifiably criticized, and it makes no sense. But we can't point the finger. We can't find the person. This is something I want to add. Most of our games are being commentated by old quarterbacks from the old regime, the old dinosaur drop-back quarterback. And they throw little subtle jabs in throughout the whole game that shapes your mind, and you have no understanding and idea that they're shaping your mind because this is the way they thought. This is their thought process because they were a simple drop-back quarterback, one read, two read, throw the ball away, they're not going to run. And they're shaping our minds, and we need to be careful because that's who's channeling our thoughts. Those gentlemen who are broadcasting the games. I was watching the Cincinnati Bengals game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and when Burfict sacked Ben Roethlisberger, that was the gentleman that was broadcasting the game saying, oh, that's a penalty. That's a flagrant hit. He should be fined. That wasn't a flagrant hit. That was a regular sack. But that's his thought process because he comes with a preconceived idea about Burfict.
By the way, no flag on the play.
No flag on the play. But that was his thought process. So he encouraged their minds to start thinking about, okay, this is a dirty player. And that's where some of it is coming from, the gentlemen that are broadcasting the game.
I'll tell you where else is coming from after the break.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. I know our First Take fam here is enjoying the show. You know who else is? Ocho Cinco. What's up, Chad? We appreciate you watching. He just tweeted the show. First Take is really good right now. Ocho Cinco, loving you being on the show right now. He just tweeted us. More First Take from Fort Mason Center here in San Francisco when we come back. Stay here.